where your problems are answered. Today I've got a letter from a lady who doesn't give me her name, and it's about her being in love with a friend's husband. So the letter goes, I'm in love with my friend's husband. 6 years ago, a really good friend of mine married a man that was very much in love with, and I have found it ever since incredibly difficult, and still do. Since then, I've had several relationships, but none of them has really lasted. This man has a beautiful house in London, another in Italy, where they spend their holidays with their 3 children. Recently, this friend of mine told me that although they have a reasonably good relationship and that he's a great guy, she has never loved him. I felt shocked and angry because I would love to be with him and have loved him so much. And we did have a very brief relationship before he met her. I believe that she married him more for his money and lovely houses. I don't think she's being fair to him, and he needs to know that she does not love him. Should I tell him? Is the question that she ends up asking me. Well, I find this a very interesting situation that people have found themselves in, and I don't think she's unique in this situation. And that's partly because I feel that sometimes we can really project a long lost love, or a love that we never really quite had. Now, in answer to your question here, and this is for anybody finding themselves in a triangular situation where they have their best friend, be it a woman, going out with a partner that she has always liked, or a man that she's always liked rather, or a man when he sees a girl with another guy that his best friend, say for example, and it does happen. Sometimes that's because you're also all drawn to each other on a soul contract level, and there's something to be resolved on a soul evolutionary level, so that's something you really need to consider. But on a basic human level, often it is our friends who introduce certain people, and often people don't really speak up. So basing my feelings around this particular question, I will start with the direct question that you asked me right at the end. Should I tell him? My immediate answer to you would be no. And the reason I say that is because you don't really actually explain to me, or I don't feel any clarity around whether you have actually been a good friend of his. All right? And I really feel that in some way it is only a thing a really good friend would say to another friend. And even then it is a very tricky area. You do say, but you love him, so that perhaps gives you the feeling that you've got the right to tell him so. That said, I am also quite intrigued that you also had a brief relationship with him, and before he met her. So 3 things come out here for me, really. That I don't feel you have the right to interfere in this relationship, despite the fact that you had a brief relationship with him and that you love him. That is because I don't feel it is yours. I feel that, in fact, that if you actually love him, you will let him be in the situation that he is and allow the situation to unravel itself as it will and as it ought to. This is also the responsibility of your friend to break the news to him if that is something she strongly feels about, that she can't maintain the length of the marriage or longevity of the marriage, and that is really up to her to come to terms with it without your outside interference. I think you need to really question your motivation or your motives around this. What motivates you to do this? They have 3 young children, which is a very strong issue to consider. And you will also end up becoming a home wrecker, and I don't think you will actually end up gaining him by informing him, and I think he will be very offended that you have interfered. I would say that you are the one who's actually envious, and clearly you are. I don't think you really hide that you find it incredibly difficult to know that she's been with this man that you claim to love and that you still do. But what I find intriguing is why and how you have not ended up with him if you have been in a relationship with him, because I really feel that a man is very capable to have the clarity to know what woman he wants. Now, basing on the fact that he had a relationship with you already, I'm going to just guess here that you possibly feigned any real interest in him, so therefore didn't claim him while you had the opportunity, and maybe sort of showed a disinterested hand that allowed him to perhaps feel that you were not serious about the relationship, which would have possibly then had him move over to your friend, and I'm going to assume possibly that he met her through you. That being said, and that happening, one thing you also didn't say was that you speaking up your mind, really, and speaking up for yourself, which I feel that can naturally happen. I don't know why it is that people hold back when it comes to relationships. So you are either not really honoring your truth or speaking up. And, you know, as I do with all these weekly Ask Rafah videos, the purpose of them is for me to give you tools, or anyone watching this that can relate to these kind of problems and has resonance with them, about which chakras possibly are weak or imbalanced that has you be and act the way you do. So really starting with the throat chakra here, you haven't spoken your truth. Now you're feeling amplified to actually communicate to him and speak your truth about that you love him, or rather, I'm sure you're going to end up saying that you love him, and let him know that your friend doesn't love him. I think the case here is, I think it could be a very selfish act of not speaking up. You should have really spoken up years ago, 6 years ago, if that was what you felt. However, the relationship could have started going along, and you felt you were unable to interfere, or felt that it would look bad on you. Again, it's an image thing, isn't it? I think we need to really look at also, this has to do with your sacral chakra as well. This is the chakra of relationships and boundaries. And you're about to breach the biggest form of boundaries, really, with your girlfriend, as well within the relationship. Because it really isn't your business to be telling them, despite the fact that you might think you're doing him a favor. I feel that in some way that you are blindsided and blinded by the fact that you love him, or you have a crush on him, clearly. Because holding on to somebody for 6 years, I can understand to a point, but also has become a hindrance to your relationships that you've had or not had, due to the fact that you've held clearly a heartfelt response and a connection to this man that you never claimed to be with. My curiosity really in the question I want to pose to is, why were you not the person that he chose to be with? You don't make that clear in your letter, and you are clearly still very emotionally stuck on him, because you also point the fact that you're angry, and this is where our heart has been hurt before, and anger is definitely an emotion that hasn't been allowed to be expressed. You know, you might actually, if anything, and you don't again say so in your communication with me, that whether you've actually spoken to your girlfriend about this issue, okay, I would, if anybody or anything, if she was a really good friend, actually speak to your friend and be direct with it. With also being direct with anything, you have to understand that we may not get the response that we would like, or get a response that we didn't expect. Now, if you were to speak up, don't be surprised if you were to ignore this advice. You were to speak up to him, do not be surprised if he actually blanks you out, or just throws you out, or even asks you to leave, and vice versa with your friend. You're just going to have to be really strong in this situation and respect the boundaries. Respect the boundaries here, that this is something that you need to work on here in the sacral chakra to make you strong and actually really accept what is really occurring in your life, as hard as it may be. If anything, you might want to communicate by writing a letter to yourself, an old self, and maybe forgive yourself, which is also to do with the heart here. Very important, because you haven't forgiven I'm sure, yourself for letting him go, because you would not find this situation. I also do believe that you are also quite envious of the fact that because you state that he has a beautiful house in London and another in Italy, and also informed me that she has possibly married him for the money and houses, which I really feel also that you have an eye for yourself and are quite envious. So this is very much a wounded heart scenario. You've got to really you know, look at that and heal that. I feel that until you've really resolved and let go of him completely, and you can do that with also cutting the cord through the heart and the sacral chakra here. You know, you can actually cut the cord of connection with somebody that you have, and also a hold you have. Very important to cut, you know, projections, because all the time all you're doing is projecting what you think is yours. Yes, and what happens is it keeps people in the triangle, and you're just going to be stuck. You will never find satisfaction in your relationship. You'll never find you'll never be able to commit yourself to somebody else. So there is definitely a letting go phase. Sometimes, ironically, once we actually powerfully let go and genuinely let go, it frees up the energetics that are active between people. All right, and then what happens is that you actually free yourself from the bondage that you have towards somebody, and somehow energetically it shifts everything and allows that somebody to come back. I mean, anybody who's actually genuinely let go of a relationship, no matter how hard it's been, I can assure you that they would have had that person come back to them in their lives, even if that person has moved on and maybe come back a bit too late. The person would normally feel some energetic release that will have them actually want to come back. Anything else is a projection, a holding on, a very vampire situation, which can be very toxic and also bordering on codependence. So I would, in your case as well, and I would perhaps suggest seeing a coach, somebody who can help you on an emotional level, a therapist, or even a counselor to deal with your emotions, as this is quite some time that you have dealt with this, and you also still refer to it as being incredibly difficult. I really do feel for you, because clearly it's something that's not been reciprocated, and it is very hard, but it's something you're going to have to come to terms with and free yourself from. So I really hope that this has helped you. And for any cutting of the cord, again, I've decided to stick with 3 chakras this time, and we are going to look at I'm going to do this in a different color so you can see it. The sacral chakra, which is to do with your relationship, boundaries, and your connection with people in life, also sometimes related to money, but definitely your sexual experiences. A lot of emotional wounding can happen here as well for women, and a lot of gynecological problems will stem also from the chakra. Here also from the heart space, where there is clearly a lot of anger, all right, towards your friend. Okay, and also probably, I'm sure you walk around feeling quite envious of people being in a happy relationship, or projecting or looking at them thinking, oh, aren't they lucky, look how they're in love. All right, relationships, believe me, are not always so cut and dry, and there's loads of work to be done in relationships, and ups and downs. The biggest factor here, my concern, is you speaking up, which is a good thing, but I would suggest perhaps you speak up to your friend as opposed to this man. There's no indication of you being a very good friend of his. And if more importantly, for you to give you the strength to know when to speak up and when not to speak up. And I think it's something that you actually missed out on, possibly way back when you didn't speak up for your love. And perhaps some part of you knew that maybe he wasn't right for you, or he felt that you weren't the right one for him, and you felt cheated in that he had chosen somebody else over you. So yes, I really hope that anybody in a triangular relationship, that if you followed through onto Vimeo, you will find a meditation that will really help you strengthen, clean up and tone up the chakras, that will help you move on and also help you heal your heart and get clear on the boundaries and cut any residue of attachment that you'll have. And also I'm going to do, which I love doing, a card reading to see what the cards reveal regarding this particular situation, and see if it correlates to my reading, or my advice and my guidance, and see how the reading also will, what other advice it may come up with, and if it correlates at all. And often there's elements of chakras that come up in my readings as well that will be of great benefit. So thank you for listening this week to this problem, which is I'm in love with my friend's husband. And feel free to contact me at IAsk Rafah at rafahsaba.com, and all the information is below on the description section. So once again, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this particular problem, and I've helped anybody who might have find themselves in this situation. Lots of love, and I'll find you here hopefully next week. Bye for now.